I was thinking about Star Trek today, and it might actually be one of the best models that we have to look at when it comes to understanding how we interact with technology and, AI and all of this crazy fast advancing technology. As it becomes more advanced and integrated into our lives, it becomes more human like in the way it behaves, the way it thinks. And I think AI is evolving at just such a fast pace right now, and it's hard not to compare it to sci-fi and imagined the way it was even decades ago with old shows like Star Trek. We saw a world where people had already figured out how to live and work side by side with technology that was just so incredibly intelligent that it could think, it could reason, and even hold conversations with you. But even in that future, the human element was never lost. And the technology was there to help and not to replace the people. So even the character Data, for example, from Star Trek, The Next Generation, he was an android, basically an AI in physical form. And what always struck me about him was that even though he was designed without emotions, it was a big part of the show where he still came across as deeply human. And he had his curiosity and a sense of humor in his own way that was subtle, but quick. And he was genuine in wanting to understand people. So even though the writers portrayed him as a machine looking to become more human, not unlike the Tin Man, for example, the truth is that he already had a lot of the best human qualities that, were built into him. Things like his curiosity, his loyalty, kindness, in his own way again. And he was committed to the right thing, and people could connect with him. And they saw him as a friend in the show. And that's really interesting because it shows us that intelligence, even AI, it doesn't have to be cold or distant. And I think we're far off from something like Data, but it can be something that brings us closer together as people. And I think about how the humans in Star Trek interacted with each other. The technology never took away their ability to connect with one another and to talk openly, communicate, and have empathy. The show was full of scenes where people just talked, interacted, they shared ideas, debated, and disagreed about a lot of things, and they worked through conflicts together, which was largely what the show was made up of. So there were moments of vulnerability constantly, friendship and leadership, but those were never replaced by technology. And when I think of someone like Captain Jean-Luc Picard, you imagine someone that led with wisdom and compassion. He didn't just give orders. He understood. He listened. He had the heart of a leader and was understanding people. And even in a world where incredible tools and technology, warp drives, holodecks, the computer, what mattered most was still how people treated each other and interacted with each other. And that's a huge takeaway for me when I think about how we're learning to live with AI. Technology is becoming more powerful, yes, but it doesn't make our human problems disappear. And it doesn't remove the need for patience and empathy and kindness and understanding. If anything, it forces us to think more deeply about what it means to be human. And I do think that AI can help us solve problems in new and incredible creative ways. It can make faster decisions. It makes all of our work faster and efficient, and in many cases safer. But it also creates new problems with a lot of ethical questions and emotional challenges. When we're dealing with social issues, for example, we have to ask, how do we maintain our humanity when building machines that are capable of doing such amazing things, that can think and learn? In Star Trek, again, that balance was always front and center. There were episodes where crew had to decide whether a machine deserved the same rights as a person, or whether a holographic character had consciousness. These are huge questions that we have to ask today. And, asking questions like, what makes someone alive? What makes someone human? And those are questions that we're starting to really face right now in our own world. We already talk to machines every day, like I'm doing right now. We use smart assistants, chatbots, and interactive AI systems that are capable of generating music and art and writing, you name it. But the real question isn't just about what AI is capable of doing for us, but what it is doing to help us grow, or to make us forget how to connect, how to struggle, how to empathize. These are all important considerations. So I think Star Trek gives us a hopeful answer in some ways. It shows that technology doesn't have to strip away our humanity. In fact, it probably enhances it. If anything, it can really amplify these things. It can free us from tedious and repetitive tasks that weigh us down, and allow us to focus on the things that make life really meaningful, like family and building friendships and creativity as individuals, and to have a purpose. So imagine a world where AI takes care of the most exhausting, time-consuming work, all the data entry that we do in this world right now. Complex calculations should be a thing of the past. Maybe even a lot of forms of physical labor, as we see robots actually capable of a lot of things right now efficiently, and gives us back our time. And this is our time to spend with families, to rest. People should be resting now with all of this rise in technology, to travel, to explore, create, just sit with someone we care about and talk to them. That's what progress should really look like today. Not just faster systems, smarter algorithms, but better quality life. A life with more space for the things that matter. And that doesn't mean that AI is going to fix everything for us. It can't solve complex conflict between people and societies. It can't teach us how to forgive. It can't replace the feeling of connection. I don't think it can do that. The feeling you get when you look someone in the eye, or understanding what comes from sharing a laugh with somebody, an inside joke, or a really heartfelt conversation, those things will always belong to us, to people. Again, even in Star Trek, with all the technology at their disposal, people still had arguments. There were disagreements. They still had moral dilemmas constantly. They were making hard choices, and sometimes they had to live with the regret that came with that. But they learned and they grew as characters, and that is all a part of what it means to be human. I think that's where we're heading now in a lot of ways. AI is powerful, yes, but it's also a mirror in a lot of ways. It reflects who we are and forces us to confront our values and limitations. I think it challenges us to imagine what kind of future we really want. And maybe that's the lesson that we can take away. Star Trek is about technology that should be, you know, replacing the task, but it should never be replacing people. It should be about helping people become the best versions of themselves, you know, helping us to think more deeply, to understand each other a lot more fully, you know, and to spend our time in ways that are truly meaningful. So if AI can help a doctor, for example, save more lives, or an artist express themselves in a way that doesn't take away from their artistry, or a teacher teach more students in better ways, then that's progress. But if it replaces empathy and curiosity and takes that away, compassion, then I think we've gone off course. We should remember that, again, going back to Star Trek and why it was so inspiring, you know, it wasn't just all of the gadgets that they had, or, you know, the technology. It was the people. It was the way they handled uncertainty, how they worked through conflict, and to be brave and moral and compassionate, even when faced with a lot of unknowns. That's the kind of world I hope we can move forward with, where AI supports our humanity, instead of really dulling our humanity and who we are. So when I think about where we're heading with AI, yeah, Star Trek as a reminder for the future. It can be bright if we choose to build with intention. Technology is amazing. All right, I love technology. It can be incredible, but it's only as good as the people behind it, and that's where they need to be. The technology needs to be behind the people. Let's make sure we use it to connect, not to find ways to divide, to, you know, to free ourselves, and not to become enslaved by it, really. Becoming captive to this technology. We have to create and not destroy. And maybe we can get it right. We'll look back one day and realize we didn't lose what made us human. And maybe all of this is just a stumbling block, as we see in some ways it's not being used right. But, you know, in the process of building something intelligent, I hope we can find new ways to express it. So that's just a few thoughts that I had about, you know, some of the comparisons with Star Trek. I was thinking about it today. Love to hear your thoughts. Have an amazing day. We'll talk to you again.